Hey, welcome Star Wars fans, community. Appreciate everybody tuning in to the Mark Austin interview. We have some really great questions for him today. And we're also celebrating the 50th anniversary of Lucasfilm, as well as a fundraiser for First Robotics, which is a fantastic STEM organization program for kids. And myself, I'm Amy Higgs. I'm the detachment leader for the Bounty Hunters Guild of the 501st Legion. And if everybody else, please introduce yourselves.
I am Robert Parisa with the Dune Sea Garrison and was the fire detachment leader.
I am Casey Smoot of the New England Garrison. I am the executive officer of the Bounty Hunter Detachment.
I'm Anna Gamboa from the Philippine Garrison and a representative of the Legion's PR team.
Fantastic. Well, Mark, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule for us. I know that last year it probably would have been a lot easier. This year's proven a little bit busier, which is a good thing for you guys.
Well, last year and this year, I luckily, haven't missed a beat. I haven't, taken any kind of time out. Netflix that I was working with last March were quick to send us all home like 2 weeks before. Everyone else seemed to be aware that there was a pandemic. And so I've been working here like non-stop for the last 2 years. So I've been busy for, the whole of 2020 and 2021. So.
Oh, well, very good then.
That's a good thing. That's a good thing.
Yes.
Yeah, very good.
Yes. Well, Casey, you want to start us off?
Sure. I think we're going to pass it to Robert. Take the first.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, actually, we will do that. So yeah, thank you for joining us today, Mark. Really appreciate your time. So obviously, like you said, we're here. Part of it is the celebration, 50th anniversary celebration of Lucasfilm. So what does Star Wars mean to you, and how's it affected you since you first saw it? Starting off with the easy questions.
Well, Star Wars came along just as my life was about to like plummet into the dark times. It was the dark times for me. It was a time when my not so nice stepfather and my mother were separating. So it was a big upheaval in my family, and luckily, I had Star Wars to escape to, because Star Wars was my galaxy I'd run away from reality and escape from. And so it got me through like a number of years. And when I finally got to meet George and work with him, I told him that. I told him, that I really, it's like Star Wars was therapy for me. It really kind of, it just really provided the ideal escapism that I needed to be able to sort of like, emotionally cope with what were some pretty kind of disruptive years. And I've never looked back. It's always been there. It's always been part of my life since 1977, and it really has affected, especially since the blue screen show has affected my life, and changed it forever. So there were things that consequences that I look back on that I never would have foreseen, like the biggest one being the fact that I do conventions now with a lot of the Star Wars characters.
Yeah.
And so I have friends, my childhood heroes are now my friends.
Right.
And they contact me asking me if I'm going to be attending a convention so that we can go and hang out. And that I never would have ever dreamt would be a possibility in the future. I never thought that Star Wars would be that impactful on my life, or that radically molding of me as a human being. But that, in a nutshell, encapsulates what Star Wars means to me.
That's amazing. That's really awesome to hear. So I know you had started work as an animator at ILM. So what led you down to that path? Or what brought you to ILM and even doing animation?
Well, originally I was a 2D pencil and paper animator making commercials in England for Europe. We made one commercial for America that got rejected, only because I guess the Florida orange groves were offended by one of the lines in the commercial. But yeah, I was working as a 2D animator in London, and the company I worked for had been going for like 35 years, and they decided they wanted to close the company. The two guys that ran the company, Ron Wyatt and Tony Catania, they decided to retire, and so they folded the company, and suddenly I was without a job, and super depressed because I'm a workaholic. I am happy when I'm working, sad to say, but my friend went to an ILM lecture in London, in the West End of London. They were giving a lecture talking about how they did the special effects and bring dinosaurs back to life for Jurassic Park. So anyway, it's really late in the evening. My friend's at this lecture. I know nothing about what's going on. And he calls me from a really busy, what sounded like a bar. And he goes, I'm with the ILM guys having a drink with them. I said, that's great, Steve, because Steve was a huge ILM fan. He would buy VHSs of movies that ILM done the credits for. You know, he's that big a ILM buffing. So anyway, he called me and he said, I'm with the ILM guys and they're looking for animators. And I said, Steve, I don't know the first thing about computers. You know, I don't even know how to work the function buttons on my pocket calculator. How the hell am I gonna work for ILM? He goes, no. They apparently, traditionally, ILM had taught technical guys proficient in the computer. They had learned animation and spent the years crafting animation as you know, their taught. He said that the software is that user-friendly now that ILM are more interested in taking animators that already know animation and teaching them this software in 10 weeks and have them be like CG animators. Oh, wow. So he gave me their phone number of their hotel room. So I called him up and I said, my friend, blah, 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 could I show you my portfolio and bring you my showreel? Yeah. And they graciously said yes. So I went up to London, carrying, you know, it's not like now you can send it down the internet. A big portfolio under one arm, a VHS in the other hand. Went to their hotel room and they said they liked my stuff, but I'd heard that before. And they left, and sure enough, within 3 weeks, I had a phone call saying, can you start in 3 weeks' time? So I rented out my house, I sold my car, I put all my furniture in storage, I packed 2 suitcases, and I set off to California for what was supposedly just an 18-month gig working on some movie called Casper. And I'm still here. So that was 1994, January of 1994, and I've yet to go home.
Wow. Not even for a visit?
No, I've been back for a visit.
Okay.
I've been back for a visit, but only because, you know, whoever I'm working for, you know, they, in the movie industry, they don't really consider you have any kind of life outside of the movie. Right. You know, the movie is all encapsulated, and that goes for every studio I've worked for. So I have been back, but you know, the most I've been back for is a month, and that's about it. But I've been busy. I mean, my IMDb, if you look at my IMDb, is I think it's like 46 or 47 movies I've worked on so far. So
it's really impressive. So
pretty long.
Yeah. So you get to ILM, obviously, like you said, it was in '94. When did you first start hearing about the special editions, and what was kind of the reactions to that kind of internally within ILM and even personally for you? How did you feel about that?
Well, 1994, there'd been so many rumors, you know, rumors that hadn't become anything. You know, there'd been so many promises that George was finally going to work on some prequels. And, you know, rumors have come, rumors have gone. Nothing really stuck until I'd say early 95. Early 95 was when the rumors started buzzing again, something was going to happen. And along with that news came news, oh, they only want 3 animators. Oh, damn, you know, I'm new. I'm new at ILM. I'm new at ILM, but very quickly I got bumped up to character supervisor for Casper. And when they came to doing the first trailer, they gave me this big trailer shot for Casper, and I must have done a good job, because then I suddenly was given all these kind of A-list shots. You know, as an animator, you would want a shot that has some meat in it, you know, some good dialogue, some good acting. That's what you look for as a character animator. And so after that trailer shot, it was the shot, you know, there's a girl on my bed. Yes, that shot. That was the shot. That was the shot that got me kind of like on this fast track at ILM. So I heard those 3 spots. I'm like, oh damn, I'm not sure I can get this. I've done a good job on Casper, but you know, three positions. That reduced to 2. And then I heard the rumor that there was only 1 position, because John Knoll had taken all the spaceship shots. No Millennium Falcons or X-Wings or TIE Fighters, but anybody but John Knoll. Damn it. So I really didn't hold much hope that I was going to ever get that 1 spot, and miraculously landed in my lap, and they gave me all the creatures except for Jabba. That was Steve Williams. But suddenly I got that 1 spot, and so, you know, it became a reality. Suddenly you saw, you know, on your monitor, you saw your quick times playing of the footage you're going to have to work on top of, all the plates. And I think when you saw the plates, when I saw, like, you know, 3PO and R2 outside the cantina, that's when my juices started flowing, because like I said, there'd been so much talk, right, but we work in such a visual industry that only when I saw something was when it took hold, you know. And yeah, I was very lucky, very fortunate to get that one spot.
Wow, that's amazing.
And
so
completely unrelated to the blue screen shoot, because the blue screen shoot was December 6th, 94, and I didn't get cast onto New Hope until June, July 95. And actually, at the end of Casper, I went up to HR, and I thought they were going to tell me my flight details. So I'm up at HR in this is the old Ireland, back in San Rafael in Kerner. So I went up to HR, and I was expected, you know, what's my flying dates? And they said, oh, we got you down as a full-time employee. I said, really? I had to look, make sure it was. And she said, that's okay, isn't it? I said, fine. No one told me. So I had to call my mother. I'm not coming home. Not for another 6 months anyway. So
wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That is so. You said you were doing the creature animation for the films and stuff. So do you have any favorites, like dewbacks or anything that was?
Yeah. I always loved the dewbacks. I always loved dewbacks, and I always loved that one production still of the Stormtrooper on the dewback that you never saw in the movie. The one that I painted, actually.
Right.
The dewbacks were always like very near and dear to me, and we never got that toy in England. I saw it on all the Kenner pamphlets, like, you know, you pour over the action figure pamphlets as a kid.
Right.
I saw you had it in the US, but we never got the dewback in. So finally getting to work on the dewback was pretty special for me. The first shot, there were way too many cooks in the kitchen. I put my walk cycle is that first shot of the dewbacks going past and the Lambda shuttle taken off. And there was some guy saying, oh, you should lift the leg here and drop the leg there, and that hip needs to come down, and they were micro directing this animation, and adding all their changes in just made this very clunky looking walk cycle. And it got to the point where I went to the producer, Tom Kennedy, and I said, look, it's really getting messy. There's too many cooks in the kitchen. Those guys, I can't tell them how to composite. They can only do that. That's not my area, but I do know how to animate. If you allow me to animate and just keep these guys off my back, I said the magic word. I said it'd be a lot cheaper. A lot cheaper.
Wasn't that the magic word? No, yeah.
If you allow me to just handle them, so after, I always take that shot because still to this day, it looks like stop motion to me because I still see the remnants of that too many cooks in the kitchen. But the second shot I got, I just had full rain on. It was a shot where the stormtrooper is climbing down off the dewback, jumps down outside the cantina. And that shot, I remember showing it to Lucas, and he was convinced that was live action. And I was like, no, I hand keyed that stormtrooper. It's like, that was the biggest compliment. Getting Lucas
definitely.
think my animation was real live action footage. So yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, that's very cool. So I think Amy has a question she's been waiting to ask for probably quite some time now.
Well, one of the costumes that I wear in the 501st is the SE version of Boba. And so how did you get the role for the special edition Fett in the New Hope?
Okay. We have to go back to, I'd say, April and May of '94. And I'm just working, I'd never had email before I worked for ILM. And as soon as I had email, I had no one to email because no one else had it apart from people I worked with. But in the inter-office email, this one popped up saying, asking for volunteers to be a stormtrooper. So you can imagine the response. It went ILM company-wide. They must have had like 120 volunteers. I already was good friends with Don Bees, who ran the archives.
Yeah.
We'd already met. He'd already, allowed me to like take pictures of the Boba Fett costume and touch it and rub it on my face. And
I'm jealous.
Yeah.
He knew how pathetically devoted I was to Boba Fett, above any other character. So anyway, I volunteered to be a stormtrooper. Suddenly I got a phone call from Don. He goes, I noticed that you volunteered. And I was like, don't tell me I'm too short to be a stormtrooper. No. He said, he goes, we had such a response that we've been rethinking our idea. He goes, originally we were just going to have, we're going to screen the new trailers for the re-release of the originals for this new generation of Star Wars fans they're hoping to bring in. And at the end of it, all the license holders are in this theater, like Dark Horse Comics or Bantam Books or Kenner Toys or whoever. And at the end of the trailers, when everyone's juices are pumped up, suddenly all these stormtroopers will kind of come down the sides of the theater, kind of, oh my God, we're being arrested kind of thing. Then Darth Vader was going to come in and say, be honored if you join us or whatever, some kind of speech. That was the original idea. And when they had 125 volunteers, they suddenly thought, we can do that, but we can also do something much bigger. How about we recreate the Mos Eisley Cantina on one of the Skywalker sound stages and have an after party there, but with aliens and the band playing and stormtroopers checking IDs and a bartender behind the bar. He goes, there's one character that you might be interested in, but until you try on the flight suit, I cannot promise you that you can do it. He said that if by chance you don't fit the flight suit, we'll find you an equally cool other character like that could happen. No, Boba Fett was my guy. So I said, I'll come on tomorrow lunchtime. So I went on the next lunchtime, and it literally was a Cinderella slipper moment, that zip going up. There was like God rays coming through the ceiling. There was angels singing, and that was my. I didn't think it'd get better than that. And I was wearing the actual suit, and they said, "Well, why you got the flight suit on? Let's check, make sure we have all the pieces." Sure, they fitted me out like Iron Man, clad in me all this armor. I was in heaven. They took a Polaroid of front, both sides, back, for reference, to make sure that they did have a thing to check the costume against for whoever's going to dress me on the night. And I did that summit. The summit was 4 hours, and for a Boba Fett fan, that was the pinnacle of experiences, because I'm in the cantina bar wearing the suit. As I go past aliens, they're like ducking away from me. give them a look, and they flinch. There's bands playing, there's dry ice, there's the bar. It was like being in a VR experience, except you could touch everything. Everything was there. The aliens were there. It was the trippiest experience. And that first summit is when all the fanboys were there. They're the license holders, but they're also fans. And so every guest that was there was into it and playing along and just having a blast. And so you got kind of caught up in the hype. And they were saying to me, they think, "Do you want to take a break? You should take a break." No, I'm fine. I think legally we have to make you take a break. So they take me off, and I'd be there with my helmet on my lap like a naughty schoolboy outside the headmaster's office, like waiting to go back in. And they, "Okay, you can go back in." When I couldn't get enough. And then when it finished, we stayed in costume, and they put music on. We was dancing in costume and had a blast. It was such a success, they had a second one, which wasn't as fun because the second group weren't the fanboys. They were like the bosses that just wanted to experience it, but they weren't fans. They weren't as into it as the first group were. So that's why the first summit is kind of, for me, the pinnacle, because it was just I could never have predicted I would ever get that experience. So I did those 2 summits, and then on the heels of that, they needed someone for the blue screen shoot. So at that time, I was like the guy that fit the suit. The guy that works at ILM already. They know I fit the suit. I'd done that Cinderella slipper moment, been through that.
Using you was cheaper.
Cheaper, free. I would have paid them.
Yeah.
But that's basically how it happened. If it hadn't have been for those summits, and if it hadn't have been from just the way I met Don Bees was a weird. I'll quickly explain that, just one detail, because it is trippy. I told you I was a 2D animator working on commercials. So I'm working on commercials. I didn't know the company was going to fold. Suddenly the boss's stepson comes over from America. His name's Guy Hudson. He didn't tell me he worked for ILM. We just went out for the evening, with the boss's son. He was our age. We went out, we took him out nightclubbing, had one night clubbing with this person, and that was it. Didn't think I'd ever see him again. He went back to America. My first day, the very first day, which was actually a Saturday before I started on Monday, someone took me into ILM to show me my desk, show me how to log into a computer, which I've never done, show me how to pick a password, show me my email, which I've never seen. We do all this, and he takes me to the pinball machine. Wow, free pinball, Jurassic Park pinball. And in walks my boss's stepson. The very first day at ILM. I'm like, oh my God, how? So he was friends with Don Bees. He was the one that introduced me. Because the archives are off limits to employees. You're not allowed to go to the archives. But because he was really good friends with Don Bees, and I'd only met him that one time in England, one time. And so if it hadn't been for Guy Hudson, who's unfortunately passed, but if it hadn't been for him, I would never have, none of this ever would have happened. So it's a trip when you think about it. You meet one person one night, and then you see him your first day, and he opens up this whole door to the archives and Boba Fett and everything. So
Very small world.
I have to ask Mark before we get on to the other question. Was your password Boba Fett 1?
No. I can tell you because they're really long now. But then it was like 6 digits. I always liked the constellation Orion. So it was Orion and my favorite number 3. That was my original password. Now you have to have like 16 letters. Sure. It has to have a number in, it has to have an exclamation mark or something. It has to have a capital in.
Gotcha.
Very cool.
Okay. I think Casey, you're up.
But when I did come over my 2 suitcases, the only action figures I bought was my Boba Fett hand painted by McKenna and my Jawa. I bought a Jawa for some reason. They were on my desk as well.
Okay,
So Mark, thank you again. It's a pleasure having you here. When you put on the suit for your summit and the screen test and blue screen, was there anything that you noticed while having the suit on that maybe you didn't expect that would be before?
Yeah, I didn't. I really didn't. And again, I learned all the lessons about the suit that first summit because that was the first time I wore it for an extended period of time. But I didn't realize how heavy the jetpack would be, and the straps. I had like after the summits and the shoot, I had permanent kind of marks for about a week and a half, about 10 days, permanent strap marks. And also the wrist gauntlets, because they hung and they dug into the top of your hand.
Yeah,
so I had red rings and red strap marks.
Yeah.
About 10 days after each of the shoots or each of the occasions I wore.
Yeah, for many of us who wear the T-visor, that's one of the things we always complain about was the gauntlets and where they wrist.
Well, the T-visor, thank heavens for the vertical in the T-visor because all your marks are on the floor. Your start position is a piece of tape on the floor, your end position, and the morning shoot was the first shot where it just had a start and an end. But then the afternoon shoot is a start, a stop, and then an exit as well. And there's a piece of tape for Harrison Ford's last known eye line at the top of the ramp. So if it wasn't for the vertical, I'd never be able to hit my marks. Like this vertical strip, if it'd just been this, I don't know how I could have done it, but this saved me. So I've been looking down at my, oh yeah, I'm on my mark.
Yeah, especially some of our shorter members.
Yes, the children.
Me.
Oh.
So that first shot, like I said, I'd been doing the summits. This isn't the right blaster, but I'd carried the blaster around. I'd be comfortable with it. So I did the first shot. I walked in, walked on, hit my mark, and Steve was like, no, can you crank the blaster around to the side? So, no, the other way. I go, okay. Further. I was like, hold it, because now walk casually. Like this. I felt sure. I felt sure it looks terrible, and it looks great on the movie, but this was a better silhouette than this apparently for the rifle. So I thought after the first morning shoot that I'd already messed up, and I couldn't see that it looked good at all, just because it felt so awkward. I was trying to walk as naturally or as Jeremy Bullock-like as I could, whilst holding this rifle, like really cranked round to the side. And a lot of people say, why do you look into the camera on the second shot? I never did. I'm looking this way. He says, okay, check out the docking bay before you exit. So I check it out. My eyes are, with the T-visor straight to camera. I can't tell because I'm not behind the camera. But no one said anything. And George Lucas loved it. He's like, hey, I love the way that Boba Fett's mugging the camera. I wish I wasn't. That's one of the most asked questions I get. Why did you look in the camera? I didn't. You can see my eyes, you'd see, but
that's the best thing about that helmet is you can be looking that way and your head's going that way and nobody knows.
Right.
you never know where I'm looking.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Right. Omnimus. So in recent years, you've been able to kind of keep that Boba Fett spirit alive by participating in a web series called No Disintegrations.
Mm-hmm.
Now, was that a project that you were approached for, or is it something you always wanted to do?
Well, shortly after doing the blue screen shoot, I got contacted by the head of Boba Fett fan club. Yeah, he had his ear to the ground. He found out who was in the suit, which is like, what he was good at, and that's what he posted on his Boba Fett fan club website. He contacted me. His name's Aaron Proctor, and we became friends back in 1995. So we're having a drink together in 2016, and he said, we had this Flash series on the Boba Fett fan club, a Flash kind of animated series that this Australian guy had done. I'm not sure, I don't think it was called No Disintegration, it's called something else. But he said, I've always wanted to do a live action version of it, and I've contacted the guy who did the original series. He's willing to write new material. Would you be willing to shoot, put the costume on and shoot it? So I said, fine. How many are we doing? He said, 5. Oh, okay. So we went and shot 5, and then 22 episodes later, we decided to wrap up what we called season 1. And they're talking about season 2. They were talking about it more actively just before the pandemic. And that kind of put kind of tripped everything up. But I guess season 2 might happen. But yeah, I just did what I thought was going to be a few episodes just for them to air on the website, because they'd air one a month. I think on the first Thursday or the first of every month or something like that. And we did almost 2 years of episodes.
So besides being obviously the man in the suit, how much of those episodes were from Mark Austin? Did you have any role in writing them, or maybe the concept ideas?
No, all the like, I couldn't, because it isn't very Boba Fett. He's very chatty in that. So some I get the pages, and some of them be 5 pages long. I'm like, really? I got to say all this? So it's not easy to do lots of dialogue in a Boba Fett suit. Not easy. So we have to do it and then kind of maybe like dub over some of the voice, because you're inside the suit, things are clanking and knocking together. The guy in Australia, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he wrote them all, and Aaron Proctor would direct them. I just did the voice and was in the suit too. The only thing I contributed was the set. I built the set for the background.
Wow. Speaking of the voice, I mean, you did a really great voice for that show. What was your inspiration for that? And have you ever thought about doing voice acting?
Yeah, I used to do it a lot for Disney, for Scratch, when I worked at Disney for 13 years. They need someone to do a voice for Scratch, and sometimes they use the Scratch in the final movie, not in the ones I did though. But we had a discussion about the voice, and we were talking about whether to do it, you know, whether to go Jason Wingreen, whether to go to Mura. The only problem I had, as I said, I don't know whether we should take this too seriously because it isn't Boba Fett. He doesn't talk this much. He would never talk this much. He's like got verbal diarrhea. I said, how about we record one that sounds Jason Wingreen, one that sounds Tamura, and one that's just my voice, which is in the middle of the two. And they did some testing, and people liked just my voice because it sounded like it wasn't taking it too seriously. And like I said, you know, I don't like making fun of Boba Fett. And so for that reason, I thought that doing a voice that wasn't too Boba Fett-like was something kind of our own that would kind of justify this chatty kind of guy, you know, sharing knowledge with, you know, newbie bounty hunters and, you know, talking to his friend Dengar or whatever. So that's how we came up with the voice. And I did kind of rasp it up a bit, but like I said, there was so much dialogue, and we had such a small crew. There was only 5 of us making these, and so our budget was nothing. So it was all voluntary, and so we didn't really have a sound guy. I always wanted them to modulate the voice to make it sound like he was inside the helmet a bit more. But that wasn't without in our budget or our scheduling to get these one every month. So yeah, I'm glad you like the voice though.
I loved it.
Yeah.
It was great. Yeah. So you mentioned season 2 and no disintegrations, and that's something that, you know, you're hoping that will come out in the future.
I am.
So let's talk about another season 2 that you may have witnessed recently, of The Mandalorian.
Yeah.
And a certain special someone showed up.
Yeah.
Are you glad that there's a definitive answer to, did he escape the Sarlacc?
Okay, I told you, people say, why do you look in the camera? The other thing is, how cool was it to be Boba Fett? And the third most asked question is, did you escape from the Sarlacc? Those 3 questions, every convention, you know, you're guaranteed every other person's going to ask you one of those 3. So now I can say yes. I always did say yes. I'd say I'm living proof.
All of us would say yes. Yeah.
But now I can say definitively yes, because you know, it's been shown, you know, on the screen. But yeah, for the longest time I was worried how they were going to handle, because I was at 2017 London Film and Comic Con, and we had 4 Boba Fetts on the stage. There was Jeremy Bullock here, I was sitting here, Alan Harris was there, and Dickie Beer was at the end.
R.I.P.
And someone asked a question, because this is at the time when the rumor was flying around about the Star Wars spin-off movie Boba Fett. It was all the hype. Everyone saying this movie's coming out, and there was fan art to support it. So someone in the audience says, what do you feel about the spin-off idea? And so Jeremy says, oh, I think this is a question for you, Mark. Hands me the microphone.
Hey, thanks.
Yeah, I just thought no one's going to like my answer. So I thought I have to answer honestly. So I said, I'm just worried. I'm just worried they're not going to handle it properly. I'm worried that they're either going to miscast it, or they're going to make him chat too much, or they're going to show too much. You know, they're going to reveal too much. And so when I finally did see his introduction into season 2, it was as though Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni had called into my head and done all my wish list, and executed it, because they used the mirror for the face. Because yeah, I'm big friends with Daniel Logan, and he was actively trying to make a bid to be the unmasked Boba Fett. Actively, like just social media, like bombing it, trying to get his name associated with Boba Fett being unmasked. And I said, Daniel, I said, if Boba Fett was Jango's son, then yes, I'd be 100% behind you. But because Boba Fett is a clone of Jango, it has to be Jango. It has to be identical. It has to be facially identical to Jango. So as much as I love you, I can't support you in your bid. So I'm really glad the way they executed it. I really loved the beaten up armor. I wish they kept the beaten up armor before you repainted it so quick, but you can't have it. The reason I thought they maybe allowed it to be painted so quick is that very quickly we're going to see it get beaten up again, either in the finale, which didn't happen, or the Book of Boba Fett. So hopefully we can get that sexy beaten up armor back.
They're just going to make it more difficult for us to do CRLs.
Yeah, so we can build that,
Every time they change something, we have a new CRL.
I was just really glad to have new Boba Fett figures coming.
Oh yeah.
It's
There
like,
you go. Yeah.
new looks for Boba Fett. So for me, it was just like, kid in the candy store.
Well,
Absolutely.
you mentioned the Book of Boba Fett and another season of The Mandalorian. If ever, you get invited to do a cameo, what would your dream, role be in either the Book of Boba Fett or the next season of The Mandalorian?
Well, I did make a bid for getting a cameo in season 2. After season 1 happened, I went to Daniel Logan, Don Beans, John Morton, Dickie Beer, and I asked everyone except for Jeremy, who's the only one I didn't get to see. But the other Boba Fetts, I said to them, if I can get us a cameo, would you be interested? Because I didn't want to make a bid for us as a group without their being on board, So I got a positive response from all of them. And so I was trying to find anybody that could get an email to Dave Filoni or Jon Favreau. I wish if I'd known that Favreau was going to do this, I would have made a bid while I worked for him on Jungle Book. But I never, working on Jungle Book, I never considered Favreau would ever be, heading Star Wars at some point. But my bid was that, if there's something happens in a bar and there's 5 guys, turning around and it just happens to be 5 Boba Fetts. I said, the fans would see it and the fans would love it. I said, and all of us, I got, verbal confirmation from everyone that they'd be into doing this. So I'm still hoping that will happen at one point, but I'd be happy for any kind of appearance in Mandalorian. Any. I wouldn't be fussy. I would be a droid in Mandalorian.
That's a true Star Wars fan. You're not picky.
Right.
You just want to be involved.
I've already had my dream. I've had my dream. Dream came true. I had more than one dream come true. I got to be Boba Fett. I got to work with George Lucas. I got to animate Mickey Mouse. All my dreams, my childhood dreams, come true. So I could die tomorrow and have no complaints. Everything I've wished for as a kid has happened. So this would just be extra, but I would take it. I'll take it in a heartbeat.
So Mark, now that we seem like we're coming out of this pandemic and things are going to start happening again, and if people want to come see you for a convention or a meet and greet, how can we do that? Will you be touring at all this coming year, maybe in the next couple of years?
It's kind of tough for me, and I do get that question a lot. And I wish I had the availability that some of my friends do. Some of the guys that do the conventions. But because I am still actively making movies for Netflix now, I'm busy, 40 hours a week, So finding what I did is when they asked me to do the Nashville convention last month, I went to Netflix and I said, I know, this is new to you, but back in the day, I would regularly take the odd Friday and Monday off to attend conventions. And so they gave me the 3 days off to go to the ICCC convention in Nashville. I'm up for any conventions. It's just tough juggling that with movie production. Because, like I said, when you're working on a movie, they consider that you are betrothed to that movie
Right.
process. And that, until the movie's done, you won't go on vacation for any extended period of time, be sick for any extended period of time. So I'll do this. I have to space them out, basically. So I try and space them out. Like, I try not to book 2 within the same month ever. But like I said, the pandemic's just finishing. So I tried Nashville. Nashville was like a test in the water. And it was almost like doing my first convention all over again because everything's changed. It was so different. They monitored how many people would come into that signing room. Everyone was really gracious. The only time I took my mask off was for the selfies. So you quickly pop the mask off because who wants a picture with a mask, ICC mask? I whip it off just for the selfies with people. And following when I came back, I was probably the most paranoid I've been since the pandemic started, because that was probably the most exposure I'd had to other people since the pandemic hit. Because like I said, Netflix, they sent us home nice and early. They were quick to. They sent us home and said, within 2 weeks, we'll get you your equipment delivered to your houses. So ever since then, I've been working remotely from the isolation of my home. It was weird to be amongst so many people and almost felt like agoraphobia a bit. Felt like exposed. And like I said, I was the most worried for the 14 days after I came back, but I'm fine. So hopefully that's, a sign that everything is approaching normalcy again, and I can attend more.
Any plans for the next celebration?
Celebration have never asked me to come.
Well, you can just show up.
Yeah.
Right.
I showed up because the last celebration that was in Los Angeles, 2015, I showed up because I had an interview with Aaron Proctor, the guy who runs a fan club. And also he was going to introduce me to Jeremy. Because Jeremy, whenever I'd said I wanted to meet Jeremy and Aaron passed that information along to Jeremy, Jeremy said, oh no, we've had lunch before. I've had lunch with that guy. And I said, Aaron, I would remember if I'd had lunch with Jeremy Bob. Like that wouldn't be something I'd forget. So he must be confusing me with Don B's or one of the other Fets, but we have never, ever had lunch together. And so he made it his kind of personal mission to introduce me to Jeremy at the last celebration that was in Los Angeles. So we got to meet, and he was the most gracious, of the Fets. And I'm glad that we had the few conventions we had together before he passed. You can only really know someone so much with like 5 minutes talking to them. So as much as I enjoyed meeting in the celebration, I didn't really get to know him until we did a couple of conventions where you're in the green room and you're spending the best part of an hour chatting about different things, and you get off the topic of Star Wars pretty quickly, because people have other things that they've done in their lives other than Star Wars. But
it's a special thing to be able to meet Jeremy, right before he passes, and kind of make those connections about the Boba Fett community and how, you know, how many people have been Boba Fett, and you've been able to just, you know, come together.
It's nice. It's nice to have that camaraderie between the Fets. Like I said, we keep in contact with each other, and we ask each other if we're gonna be attending the convention so we can see each other. And if we don't see each other, we will arrange to have, you know, Korean barbecue together and stuff like that. Like I had Korean barbecue with Daniel and Vicky when we were in the pandemic, or just before the pandemic, just because we hadn't seen each other for a while. So that's something I could never have predicted, and something I probably treasure the most is, like I said, just having friends of my childhood heroes. You know, the sad side, the flip side to that is when, you know, you get the news about David Prowse, or you get the news about Alan Harris, or you get news about Felix Silla. That's the hard part. So it's joyous, but at the same time it's crushing when you get that news. It's on a personal level, because you knew them outside of you know, the convention scene. You got to spend time with them.
We do have something special in the works. This is actually kind of the first little tidbit that it's going out to the public, but there is something in the works to honor Jeremy. We'll keep you up to date on it.
Because I didn't know until I spent time with, it was actually, I think it was Gerald Hung, Squidhead, who kind of really filled me in on just how big a contribution Jeremy made to the Comic-Con. He basically founded the Comic-Con, or what we consider the Comic-Con of modern day. You know, his whole idea of the men behind the masks, about actually people getting to meet the people inside of the costume, like myself and like him and like Darth Vader. You know, that was Jeremy's idea. I never knew that. I never knew that he started that on his own, and it just became part of the comic convention scene. And now it's just a standard that there'll be you know, characters there usually signing at the convention. But you know, he was the one that started that ball rolling. So we're all indebted to Jeremy for just the opportunity to come into contact with people that share the same passions that you have. You know, so I'm a huge Star Wars fan. It's pretty obvious. So for me to meet fans is like meeting like-minded individuals, you know. And I say to them, I say, I know why I like Boba Fett, but why do you like Boba Fett? And the top two answers are always screen presence, or how cool the costume is, gadgets, you know, weaponry. But those two are the top two answers that either someone's going to say one of those two, at least, you know, as part of their answer.
Well, I think that was all the questions we had prepared. Is there anything, you know, final wrap up that you want to get out to the community, to the Star Wars family?
Oh, that put me on the spot.
But why don't you tell us about your artwork, Mark? I've seen stuff on Instagram, but I kind of wondered, you know, I know obviously you do Star Wars artwork, but do you do other sorts of artwork, and places people can see it?
Yeah, I never did Star Wars artwork. You know, Star Wars artwork only just really started 2018. Okay. I just decided I do a lot of paintings, a lot of abstracts, but I've never done anything where I'm trying to reproduce it. Exactly. So I figured, just as a challenge to myself, I figured, okay, so if I take one shot from Star Wars and I paint it, and I try and paint it in a way that people might look at it and think, is that a painting? That's the challenge I set myself. And so it was Darth Vader in the meditation chamber. And I just did that one. And I had such a blast doing it. And it worked, turned out better than I thought it would. And the reason I picked Star Wars is because everyone knows, you know, every pixel of every frame. So if I messed up Darth Vader's helmet, or any detail, people know, people see it immediately. So it kind of, for me, it kind of made a nice kind of bar, raised the bar for me as a personal challenge. I did that one, and I filmed it time lapse and put it on my YouTube channel, and it got a good response. So I did a second one, and then third one, and now I'm on, I don't know, number 17, I think. I'm trying to get enough to have a gallery, an exhibition of them all. But this is my latest one,
Right.
in the early stages. But yeah, I'm addicted to. It just started. It's just the last few years. But before then, it was all like, and I was obsessed with painting Marilyn Monroe or Madonna, or you know, wow. But yeah, the last 3 years have all been Star Wars.
Well, fans, I guess you'll have to stay tuned to see when the gallery, the art show happens.
Yeah.
It should.
Yeah.
Those pieces are amazing.
Or if they can't make the show, then my YouTube channel, I recorded everyone from the blank canvas to the finished. And one of the reasons I did the time lapse is because I am, like I said, I'm a workaholic, but when it comes to my personal artwork, I am a procrastinator. So very big into procrastination. So once I hit record for the time lapse, that's kind of me pushing myself to start. Because once that record button's on, I got to do something.
There you go.
So it forces me to make something of my afternoon, which I'll do tomorrow. I'll be working on this tomorrow afternoon. But
Nice.
me actually physically pushing that record button is what gives me that push. Like, go, do something. Stop procrastinating.
Well, we want to thank you again. This has been fantastic. I know I've enjoyed it thoroughly. And again, thank you for tuning in, folks. Remember the First Robotics organization. There's a link at the bottom of this page. You can go and check them out. They do a lot of great things with the kids. You know, the whole STEM, science, technology, getting them involved. It doesn't get any better than that. So thanks again, everyone. And happy 50th anniversary, Lucas.
Thank you so much, Mark.
Bye-bye.
Bye.